Hello and welcome to the Freedom Frequency Podcast. I'm your host, Kaya, energy healer, psychic channel, and spiritual mentor for women who are ready to ditch the spiritual rulebook, release the pressure and overwhelm, and let go of all that comparison that makes you feel like what you're doing isn't enough. In this podcast, I'm going to share bits of my journey with you, as well as my wisdom and knowledge to show you that spirituality gets to be something that works for you and not something that you work for. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hello. Today is going to be a juicy one. Today I am going to share something that came through as a channeled message for one of my clients, and it was through one of our membership Q&As where she kind of just said, like, I'm open to whatever's channeling through. And this topic came up, and afterward I was thinking about it and I was like, it's actually such a good topic that I think I'm going to record a separate, obviously I'm not going to send the same one I sent her because there's some personalized information in there. But I was like, I think I'm going to re-record this kind of topic and riff for the podcast. So this is like one of the laws of the universe in some ways that I'm going to talk about, but I'm not really going to be like, getting into the nitty gritty of like laws of the universe and whatever. But I want to share like what came through my channel around this topic and just see where it goes from there. So one of the laws of the universe is the law of assumption. And long story short, because we're not here for a lesson, like we're not here to like, just education. I want to share a channeled message instead. So the laws of the universe, one of them is the law of assumption, which long story short essentially says that what we assume will happen is more likely to happen. Like that's my take on like what it is. So like when we assume something, it's more likely to manifest into our reality because we see it as like, the main option. So aside from just the facts and information, what I want to get into is kind of a channeled message that was coming through for this client, and then also just opening up my channel right now to whatever's coming through specifically for the collective and for those of you who listen to this podcast, because I realize what comes through for a client and versus what comes through for the podcast can differ because of the audience and who the message is meant for. So what I really want to talk about is the topic of assumptions and of assuming things. And so there's a few places that I'll probably go with this, but let's just jump off the cliff and see where we're going to go. So along with the law of the universe and what I was saying is that when we assume something is going to happen, we are more likely to see it manifest into our reality. And this is like, if you've heard that quote, I don't even know like what it actually is, but it's something along the lines of like, where your attention goes, energy flows, or something like that. And it's like where we place our focus is where we're going, right? And you probably heard things like that before. So when we're making assumptions that, a situation is going to turn out a certain way, it's more likely to turn out that way because we're giving that so much attention that we're actually manifesting that into our reality. And this is the same thing as just like manifestation 101 kind of, I guess, where manifestation is like us creating our reality, right? Like that's the point of manifestation, is like we're the creator. So if we're the creator, then our assumptions matter. What we assume is going to happen matters. And where do our assumptions come from becomes a deeper question here. And a lot of times assumptions can be very tightly linked to belief, to what we believe is possible for ourselves, for others, for reality, what we believe is the highest probability, right? Because an assumption is our belief of the highest probability. So when we assume that a situation will turn out a certain way, it's because we believe it's the highest probability that it will turn out that way. And so that comes back to our beliefs. So if we're going to shift our assumptions, we actually have to shift our beliefs. Because I think a lot of people, when we look at manifestation and people are like, you know, like if you've heard people say like affirmations and things like that, like today's going to be abundant, I'm going to receive money out of nowhere or whatever, then that's a statement. But is it actually something you're assuming? Probably not. And so when we're actually not having the assumption and, the layer deeper, the belief behind something, then it's not going to manifest just because we're saying it. And that's not to say that our voices don't have power, because they definitely do. And especially when we repeat different affirmations and we repeat things or do EFT tapping and things like that, different things work for different people, but they can be a lot more effective at shifting our beliefs, right? But what we really need to realize is that it's not enough just to say like, oh yeah, like this could happen, if underneath you're assuming it won't and you're believing it won't. And I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up, because, we want to stay like high vibe and think positive and things like that. And so there'll be a lot of people who are like, yeah, like, I mean, I could get $1,000 today out of nowhere, like, even though I'm not planning on it. But then, subconsciously they're like, but probably not. And their beliefs are like, ain't happening. Then it's like, it's not actually an assumption. It's not a belief. It's just you playing, which can be fun. Like, I love playing with possibility, but we want to play with possibilities that we could potentially get our assumptions and belief behind sometimes, right? And so where I really want to go with this conversation of assumptions too is that assumptions have power, obviously, right? We have already talked about that. And so when we have our beliefs and our assumptions towards not only situations, but also towards people and towards ourselves, this is just a deeper layer of it. Because I think sometimes it's often talked about and like, we assume a situation will turn out a certain way, but we don't often look at the assumptions we're making in other areas of our life. So we can look at, say you're a business owner. My client was a business owner. So say you're a business owner and you're like, I really want to manifest my 10K month, my first 10K month. And you're like, okay, yeah, like I could maybe do a 10K month. Like, it's possible, but you're kind of assuming it's not going to happen and it's far-fetched, and your beliefs are, obviously swaying in that direction as well. If your assumptions are, then it's like, that's a situation that you're assuming will go a certain way. But we can also take this deeper to look at, where else are we making assumptions? So let's take the business owner example and run with it, because I like to keep the same examples. So you're a business owner, you're assuming something's going to go a certain way, but then you're also wanting to look at where else you're assuming things. So what are you assuming about yourself? What are you assuming about yourself matters too. So are you making assumptions that you're not capable of doing something? Are you making assumptions that you're probably not going to find the time to do that task you've been putting off? Are you making assumptions that you're probably not going to finish the things on your to-do list today? Like, what assumptions are you making about yourself? Because this shows, not only your beliefs about yourself, what you believe you're capable of, what you believe you're deserving of, but it also shows how you see yourself. And then this opens up the conversation of identity and who you believe yourself to be, how you see yourself, what kind of person you think you are. And so that's another layer that we want to look at when it comes to our assumptions. And then we can also look at, what are my assumptions about other people? Right? What are my assumptions about other people? And continuing on with our example of a business owner, then we can look at, I see this happen all the time, and I've been guilty of this in the past as well, is like, assuming things about people, assuming that, people don't have the money to invest in your program, assuming that people don't want to, they don't see the value in what you have to offer. You're assuming that people are not seeing your content because they're not clicking like and commenting on it. You're assuming that people are judging you when they honestly couldn't care less about how you're showing up in your stories. And like, you're assuming that people are not capable of deciding to make an investment on their own and they need someone to hold their hand through it. You know what I mean? So now we can get into that layer too. And what I really wanted to offer up to this client, and what the channeled message was coming through, is like, look at where you're making assumptions in your life in all areas, whether it's your business, if you have one, whether it's relationships, whether it's your relationship with yourself, it's your home life, it's your financials, like whatever it is, like what assumptions are you creating about what's possible, how a situation could turn out, what's coming next, what you're capable of, what you're deserving of, what other people see in you, what other people are capable of, what they think, like all of these things. Okay, the message coming through is like, what if you went through a day in your life looking at every single time you made an assumption and asking, is this assumption, oh my gosh, my mind just went blank. I'm like in the middle of channeling. Is this assumption supportive of the life I'm desiring to create? Right? And this isn't from a lens of like nitpicking and like, oh my gosh, I assume all the worst things and like blah blah blah. Like, it's from an awareness standpoint. And if you're in mirror, you understand what I'm saying. If you're not in mirror, you need to get in the next round, because this program is like life changing. And I'm running the next round in February, and right now it's on like a crazy insane pre-sale with an extended payment plan, because it's starting in a few months, and it's just a no-brainer. But anyway, in this program we do talk about, we do a lot of inner work in this program. And one thing we do talk about is like looking at all this from a lens of like, it's just data. We're collecting data. It doesn't mean it's good or bad. So if you notice that like you have a lot of negative assumptions, and like, I hate using the word negative, but it gets the point across, so that you look at like, you always assume the worst in situations, you assume the worst in yourself, you assume the worst in others, then it's not from a place of like, oh my gosh, why do I do this? I'm the worst. Like, I'm so negative, like, whatever. But from a place of like, okay, interesting. Now I've noticed data that I did not have before. And now I know that I have a lot of assumptions around XYZ that are not supportive of the life I'm desiring to create. And then from there, we can start to see where these assumptions become linked to beliefs, where these assumptions are rooted in a belief, right? So if we're assuming, say, like you're the business owner, going back to the same example, you're a business owner, you want your first 10K month, but you're assuming it's not going to happen. You can then look at, okay, like, what other assumptions might be linked to this? Like, it's not going to happen because I'm assuming that not enough people are going to buy my new program, because I'm assuming they're not going to see the value in it, or I'm assuming they don't have money for it, and I'm assuming that I'm not going to have time to market it the way I want to, blah, 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 blah. And you can go down the spiral, and then you can look at like, okay, like where are all of these rooted in? Like, what beliefs are these rooted in? So like, they're rooted in the belief that like, other people have money problems because I had money problems. So I'm projecting onto others is the reality of that. And it's rooted in like, I don't have enough time to, market my program, and I have a belief that I need to have X amount of time to see results. I have a belief that, I have to do XYZ to receive, right? So we can start to link back to like, where are these beliefs coming from? And then that gives us the opportunity to work on shifting those beliefs, right? Like releasing what's no longer serving you, and in turn shifting your beliefs so that you can start to shift your assumptions. And then when we start to shift our assumptions, obviously where the energy go, or what is it? Where the attention goes, energy flows, right? So when we're able to really get down to the root of things and understand what the beliefs are here, the core, that's when we can start to shift things. So like I already said, this is the kind of work that we're going to be doing inside of Mirror Mirror. I wasn't planning on linking it back to this, but it does work in beautifully. So I will ask my lovely assistant to put the link for Mirror Mirror in the show notes. If you're like, okay, yeah, this made a lot of sense for me. I need to dive deeper into this work. I need help with, going through this, uncovering things, having support through it all, releasing all the things. The next round's running in February. I'm still nailing down the final details. It might end up being a longer container than this round is 6 weeks, and I might make it longer, but I'm not sure. But either way, the pre-sale price is absolutely insane for this program and the transformation that you'll receive through it. So if you're interested in that, I will link it in the show notes. Otherwise, other ways to receive support from me right now, there are plenty. I have a lot of Black Friday fun deals on. Some of them are ending in a couple days from when this podcast airs. Some of them are ending, or, prices are increasing as we get closer to the new year. So if you want to keep up to date on all of the offers I have going on right now, the best place to look is Instagram. And I have a highlight with all the Black Friday offers, with all the special deals going on right now. That's called Work With Me. So I'll link my Instagram down below. I'll link a few offers if you want to check them out. And that's all I have for you today, my love. That's all I have. If you are wanting to scope around and potentially find a good fit for you, I would love to welcome you into one of my containers. You can also send me a message if you're not sure what's the right fit for you. It's always no pressure. I'm not going to follow up and make you feel obligated to buy anything. I want you to come in through your own sacred yes. So thank you so much for listening. As always, if you'd like to leave a review, it helps me get my message out further, and I highly appreciate it. Otherwise, have a beautiful week, a beautiful weekend. If you're celebrating Thanksgiving in America, sending you all the turkey vibes, and I will catch you on the next one.